And good morning. Welcome to Studio Church. Yeah, we'll just continue. Take a few minutes here to introduce each other. It's another great day, and yeah. Okay. So it's a great day. Everyone had an opportunity. Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed, but in the Bible, Jesus calls just about everyone friend. Except for maybe a few people, and those were basically centered around the Pharisees. He did not call the Pharisees friend. Only a couple of them he did. Nicodemus maybe. So if we look at Luke 5:20, this is in the NIV Bible, it says, when Jesus saw their faith, he said, "Friend, your sins are forgiven." Now, just to give you some background on that story, this is a guy who's stuck to a stretcher. I mean, he can't walk. And his friends are trying to get him some healing. They're trying to get him into the house, but they can't get in there because there's too many people. So what they did is they ripped a hole in the roof and they lowered him down. And then Jesus looks at him and says, "Friend, your sins are forgiven. Get up and walk." Friend? That's all he had to say was friend? He doesn't even know the guy, or so we think. So if we look at that word friend, how much power is in that word? How much power is in the word friend? Like, if you don't call a person friend, then what do you call them? You call them acquaintance? You call them something else? You call them a name? Do you curse them? Because if you look at it, you can use the word friend, and it's a blessing or it's a curse. Now, when Jesus said that, I mean, this guy's laying on the mat, and I'm just wondering, he's looking at Jesus like, what? Like, what's going on here? Is this some kind of shady salesman or what? You know, if it was me, I think I'd be afraid to even try and get up and walk in case it didn't work. That's called lack of faith. But he did. So you know that devious people use the same tactic. They use the same words. They call you friend, and they try and get you to warm up to them so they can do these sneaky little tactics behind the scene in order to get you off guard. And then when it's right, they can spring it on you. So there's the caution that we as individuals, we've all had that happen, where somebody claimed to be a friend and then they snuck around behind your back and did something totally different. And they were not a friend. At least they weren't a friend to you. You could still call them friend. But so that's kind of what we had to look at. But so let's look at the Pharisees. They were so blinded that they couldn't see the actual friendship that Jesus exuded. Jesus was a true friend, in the absolute essence of what friendship is. None of this fit their character because they were so rigid in their thinking. Because they had this set of rules and regulations that you had to do. You couldn't come any closer. They don't want to be your friend. They didn't want that. They want to be in authority over you. So for them to welcome you in to become their friend, it wasn't going to happen. So they, like I said, they had these rules and regulations and perimeter, and you weren't welcome in there. You couldn't come in there because that is their zone of control. And if they let somebody in there, then they might become a friend. So they were all friends within that circle, that clan or whatever you want to call it. But nobody else was welcomed in. Because you could only come into the temple if you purchased pigeons or whatever from their table. If you did that, then you could bring that in and sacrifice it. But if you were a prostitute or tax collectors and things like that, I don't even know if you were welcomed in there. You probably had to sneak in there if you were. So I don't want to focus on the aspect of friendship so much today, but I do want to focus on the positives behind friendship and the power behind the word friendship. So it's nice that we all have friends, right? I mean, it's great. I mean, some of us have a lot of friends, and some of us have a couple friends. Some of us have one friend. It doesn't matter how many friends you have, and it doesn't matter how those relationships work out. But I do know one person who has 365 friends, let's say, and can talk to every one of those people in a couple of days and have share the exact same amount of exuberance to every one of those people. So that person could never handle, one person could never handle that person as a single friend. They need that many friends because they have that much inner strength and power to be able to spread that out all over to all of that whole crowd of people instead of one person. Other people have the one friend, and that's all they need. Some friends are in our life for a very short time, and some friends are in our life until the day we die, from the day we met them to the day we die. But they're fewer than the friends that we can count. So take a moment and just count to yourself how many friends, people you call friends, on your hand. I mean, I'll bet some of you may get to 10. We'll see. You don't need to put your hand up or anything. Just do it mentally. But some people, they're just socialites and they need that many friends because one friend can't handle all of their whole personality because they're very outgoing. Everybody's different. Some people need more friends than others because, they're just woven that way. They have to have lots of friends in order to garner little bits from each one of those people in order to build that into their own life. Because that's what we do. When we have friends, we take little snippets of their lives and their mannerisms and their actions, and we incorporate them into our lives so that we can grow. But the point of this message is not so much about friends, but it is about alliances. It's about the alliances we make with other people who we call associates or friends or acquaintances, anything along that line. We can all have the kinds of friends we associate with on a regular basis, sometimes daily basis. And some of us don't need to see our friends that often. Some of us, we just talk to them on the phone and that's it. I mean, you may never see the person. And I have a friend like that, where we talk on the phone. I don't know if I've ever met them. So let's just define what a friend really is. And we find that in the Voice Bible, for Proverbs 17:17. It says, "True friends love regardless of the situation, and a real brother exists to share the tough times." So when it says brother, let's just say family, because it can be brotherly or sisterly and that sort of thing. And so that friendship and that family relationship, because when you become friends with people, you actually become a little family. It's something that allows that friendship to become so close that you act like family. Sometimes you relate better than you do with your entire family, so that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So the real meaning of a friend is someone who will do anything for you for no reason. It's called servant attitude. And that servant attitude is so prevalent in a friendship because you're willing to do that because you get along so well with this person and they're your friend that it's easy to do those sort of things because maybe you feel appreciated, but maybe you just like doing it to see that person's joy. So friendship is really something that it's all encompassing, and yet it's such a core principle that fits into our heart, and that comes right directly from heaven. Because I believe that everybody wants to be a friend, to be a true friend to somebody or to all people. And when we step past and go into all people and try and be all of their friends, then we're doing the wrong thing. We're trying to be something different for every single person that we know, and we can't do that. That's just wrong. You need to focus. We need to put all of our purpose and principles into a few people that we call friends and make those relationships grow, because God put those people there in your life for a certain reason, because you're supposed to garner something out of that relationship that you can't get anywhere else. But sometimes, so now it's so easy to see why Jesus called everybody friend. But sometimes those relationships and those individuals can take on a trouble or temptation or take us to places where we really shouldn't. We wouldn't go on our own. And sometimes when we have those friendships can lead us off down these garden paths and down these snake alleys, let's call them, that lead us to places where God does not want you there. God does not want you there. And that friendship might be something that you need to step back from. You need to go to the Bible and look at it and say, how does this friendship work with God? And if it doesn't fit that pattern, then maybe that friendship is not the best one for you. If we look at Matthew 26:50 in the NIV, it says, Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. Now, in case you don't know that story, that's where Judas Iscariot sold out Jesus to the Pharisees, and the Pharisees came and captured him. And Jesus revealed who Jesus was, Judas revealed who Jesus was through a kiss. Now, maybe through some twisted fact that Judas thought he was being a friend, he was helping a friend. You see, it's when you take on this power of authority and do things that to control your friends, that all of this stuff goes awry. It all goes wrong. Everything goes sideways and people get hurt. And this is, I think this is an absolute truth in the fact that he thought that he was Jesus' friend, but he wasn't. He thought he was trying to make friends of the Pharisees, and the Pharisees don't make friends. They use people. And Jesus wound up losing for that. Yet, Jesus still called Judas friend. Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he rip him from limb to limb? Why wouldn't he tear him apart verbally in front of all those guards and just rip him to shreds and degrade him and all of those things? Because, first of all, Jesus isn't like that. Jesus would never do that sort of thing. And people who do that, who lash out and retaliate, they have a core belief system in their heart that they are in charge and they need to fix that. They need to take control of this situation because this friend, Jesus, doesn't know what he's doing. It's a very dangerous place to be. Very dangerous. Because in Matthew 6:15 it says, "But if you do not forgive others their sins, your Father will not forgive you your sins." When we do things to friends, they need to forgive our sins. Or when they do things to us, we need to forgive their sins. Now, is it required that we need to make a show of that? Friends have done things to me that hurt my feelings, and we talked about it. And that was the end of it. I mean, it really never went any further than that because I understood them and they understood me. But then there's sometimes where people will take that a step further and they'll try and control you with elements regarding things like that. They'll try and take you to places where you don't need to be and where the Bible says don't go. But it's hard to get them to understand that because they're so wrapped up in trying to get themselves validated that they will use you and your friendship to try and validate them for their own weaknesses, their internal weaknesses. So when Judas thought he was being a friend to the Pharisees, he was actually trying to control Jesus. He was trying to control his actions. He thought that because he was in the financial position and he had this mentality that he was in control. And it's the other way around. It's the old proverbial story of the tail wagging the dog. And that always fails, every time. Judas couldn't see the truth because he was blinded by the enemy. But more importantly, Jesus allowed that. He allowed himself to be blinded by the enemy. If we have true friendship to somebody, and we would do anything for that person for no reason, he took it too far. Because he had a motive. And that's what I say. Friendships don't end friendships. Motives do. Motives get in the way, and they block out anything that a friendship could possibly do. If friendships can end so abruptly and so suddenly, simply because one person has a motive, and that friendship is destroyed because of that. But now I want to talk about some friends that I had back in junior high school. 3 names: Dave, Mike, and Craig. Why do I remember these names and so vividly? I don't know. But Dave was the kind of friend, it was a very real friendship. I mean, we rode bikes, we went hiking, we went fishing, we went hunting. We scoured the river valley in Lethbridge. And we would go there at 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, and then we would do it again the next day. So that was the kind of relationship that we had, and we would, every day we'd go and do something, whether go for donuts or pop or ride bikes or whatever. It was always something. We even raised pigeons together. I would raise the pigeons, and he would race them. And sometimes he would use my pigeons for mating his, that sort of thing. So that was the kind of friendship that was. And then there was this friendship with a guy called Mike. Now, it was a different kind of a friendship, and really only the friendship lasted at school and then nowhere else. And we would do crazy things in the school. They weren't really troublemaking things, but they turned out to be problems most times because they were so stupid. So this one time they had this, the janitor had just waxed the longest hall in the school. And so what we would do is we'd start at one end, we'd run as fast as we possibly could down this hall, and then we'd fall down on our knees and we'd slide, and we'd see who could slide the furthest. Well, this one time we were doing that, and the janitor walked around the corner right in front of us, and we just about crashed into him. Well, he stopped, he looked at us, he looked down the hall, and then he screamed at the top of his lungs, he said, "Look what you did to my floor!" And we looked back, and there was these long scratches all the way down the hallway in his brand new waxed floor from all of the eyelets on our runners. And when we were sliding on our knees, they were scraping big scratches in the floor. And we never saw that. And we couldn't figure out why we kept slowing down the more times we did it. It was because of all the big gouges and scratches in the floor. So he wasn't very impressed about that. So those are the kind of the dumb things that Mike and I did. They were a lot of fun, but that friendship really didn't last. And then there's this third friendship. Craig is his name. I mean, we talked a couple times throughout the year, and the last day of school, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody flew out of that place. They couldn't wait to get away, but I came out of the school, and Craig was standing there, and we started making paper airplanes in the basketball court outside the back of the school. And we did that for hours. I wish I would have brought one. They're really cool. And so he taught me how to make this really funky airplane, and it works really well. And the friendship I had with him was the kind, I mean, we only spoke, like I said, a half a dozen times a year, and in the 2 years that I knew him, but it was the kind of friendship that when you spoke, you looked at him and you knew that he understood what you were saying. And it was the kind of friendship that when he spoke to you, you completely understood what he was trying to say. There was really no gray areas, no questions. It was a very solid kind of relationship in that way, but very different from the relationship I had with Dave and Craig and Mike. So it was a very interesting friendship. So friendships can flourish on their own. Friendships can flourish for unexpected reasons, but they can also end just as quick. They can end abruptly, or they can just end through something that I call attrition. You know, where the world seeps into that relationship and distorts it. Now, all of those worldly things that seep in there, they're just standard stuff. I mean, we grow up and we grow out of those friendships. We grow out of that lifestyle. We stop skateboarding, and that sort of thing is the older you get. I mean, how many 75 or 80-year-olds do you see skateboarding? Not many. And so, I mean, those things just sort of stop after a while. And so that's the attrition that I'm talking about. Things just sort of fade away and they stop. And people leave because the relationship doesn't hold anything anymore. It was fun for the time, but now they're gone. And then there's other people who actually have a friendship in order to use you. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way. I have a friend that I haven't seen him for years, and he'll phone me up and say, "Hey, geez, Brian, you still have that funky tool to cut that thing?" I'm going, "Yeah?" He said, "Bring it over." "Yeah, okay." So I bring it over to him, and we do the thing that we have to do. And after it's done, I pick up my stuff, and I go home. And that's the end of it. And then I don't see him or hear from him for another couple of years. And then I need something. I'll say, "Hey, geez, do you have that thing still in your backyard?" "Yeah." "Okay, I'm going to come over there." "All right." So then I go over to his place. We do what we have to do, and then I leave. And I don't hear from the guy, and he doesn't hear from me for a couple of years. But when we get together, that relationship just goes from that year to this year to this year, and it's like that time frame in between just doesn't exist. And it's not an odd relationship. It's just so fulfilling at the particular point in time that that's all we need from each other. And it's an okay relationship. But then there's other people who actually do that on purpose in order to try and get something from you that they want. And they will do it sometimes at any means in order to achieve it. And those are the kind of relationships that are maybe a bit too toxic for us, that we shouldn't have those kind of relationships in our lives, but we allow them. And that's the thing. That's what Judas did. He allowed those relationships into his life that clouded his thinking, that took him onto a place and down a path that he never should have gone. And that's where we go sometimes. We just get sucked into these things and there's this swirling effect, and suddenly we wind up in a place we never thought we would never choose to go to these places. But suddenly we are there, and we have to deal with it at that point. You know, there's other relationships where God steps in and says, "No, that relationship ends today. That person's gone out of your life." Or else he'll walk over and say, "No, you don't belong in that relationship. I'm taking you out of there. You're creating problems." So there's those kind of things that end relationships as well. And we look at NIV in Proverbs 19:4. It says, "Wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friends of the poor person desert them." Unfortunately, that's true. Unfortunately, that's so true. That's why when you meet people on the street, they have this warmth about them. We've experienced that. Where they're so open and they're so friendly, and it's just, you can tell their genuine friendship. Because sometimes they don't have anybody to talk to. They don't have any friends or many friends. Most people, they're asking for spare change and people go, yeah, whatever, or else go get a job. So when you interact with these people in a sincere fashion and treat them like friend, you experience that friendship. It's not a bad friendship. So when you allow people into that perimeter that you have around you, into that spiritual circle, because we all have one. We have these perimeters that we put up around us to keep people out or to keep people in, or to allow the acceptable people in and keep the unacceptable people out. And that's a good thing, because it's all, as long as it's based on the teachings of the Bible, that's a good thing. And that's what we need to do. We need to base those relationships around those things. So sometimes we try and get involved with people like a person who's never been to church suddenly steps into a church and goes, "Oh no, I need to be like these people." No, you don't. You don't need to do that. You need to be you. When you walk in there, those people are there seeking the same thing that you're looking for. They're seeking the exact same confirmation from other people that you are. And sometimes there's cliques in the church. Well, those people have been there for a while and they understand. But most of the people who go to church are there by themselves. Most of the people go there with somebody else, with a friend or a spouse. And they're all looking for the same thing, some sort of friendship connection. And if you don't allow those friendship connections, that's never going to happen. And you're never going to experience it. You're always going to look at the church like, whoa, those people. So let's look at, in the Message Bible, Luke 5:36, it says, "No one cuts up a fine silk scarf to patch old clothes. You want fabrics that match." Now, people take that verse the wrong way most of the times that I hear it. It's about a spiritual connection with Jesus Christ. It's saying sometimes your old life doesn't match where you're going with Jesus Christ. It's not saying that abandon those people, get rid of them, they're no good for you. Some of them are, and we need to do that. But most of them are just friends who we had in the past that we don't need to abandon them or just stifle them and shut them off. Sometimes all it is just a case of us moving and stepping forward into that new church family or that new relationship with other friends. And so you can welcome them in too. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to bring people with us. So being in the realm of the church, suddenly our common bond's different now. Isaiah 42:7, it says, "To open the eyes of the blind, to free captives from prison, and to release them from the dungeon, those that sit in darkness." We're all in darkness. If we don't seek the light, we don't seek friends, the kind of friends that can bring us forth and extend our boundaries and help us to understand the other aspects and other people in life, then we're in the darkness. We stay in the darkness because we don't want to move forward. We're too afraid. We're too afraid that we might not fit in with that new fabric of the new church that we're looking at. And we shut ourselves off. We make ourselves unfriendly. And we sit there and we say, why don't I have any friends? It's because we can't be a friend. If you can't be a friend, you're not going to have any friends. It's important, like I said earlier, that friendships don't break friendships, motives do. Friends and friendships end because of the infiltration of the outside world. Whether those be good things or bad things, whether that's referring to jobs, maybe you have to move away. That's the outside world infiltrating into your friendships and ending them. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's bad. So, and that's perfectly clear in the relationships that I had with Dave, Mike, and Craig. Dave I still see every once in a while. We get together for various reasons, usually a family reason. We're not family, but we're friends. Even though we live 1,000 kilometers apart, it's like that relationship never ends. We connect, and suddenly those old things that we did and said come right back, and they just continue on from there. So that's the solid relationship that I was talking about. Very tangible kind of relationship. And Mike, I don't know where he is. Don't know what happened. Sometimes I don't care. But I do owe him one. Mm-hmm. And Craig? Well, that's the last time I saw Craig, was that warm summer afternoon at 1 p.m. on the last day of school in junior high. Because he died in a car crash that summer. So I had no reason to see him again. So each each one of those friendships brought something to me. Each one of those friendships had little elements, little aspects of it that I absorbed by osmosis. I brought them in, and I used portions of those people in my life. That became part of me, and that's what happens with friendship. And when we don't have friends, that doesn't happen, and we start to starve. We start to shrink away. We need to open up that circle of friendship and take some risks. But check the Bible and see how those relationships work in that respect. Because we've all had that friend where we put ourselves out there, and we thought they were the best friend, but then they cut us to the core. And it hurt. And we never forget that. We can't forget it because it hurts so much. But sometimes if you have to. Otherwise, you'll be in darkness because you'll never experience the light as other people experience it. It's like we get to the place, we become a product of our environment, and if we're weak on the inside, and we shut ourselves off like that, and it just makes things worse. And when we look in the mirror and we look at ourselves and go, oh, I don't like what I see. It's destroying. It's withering us away. And when you have no friends that you can talk to about those things, when you have no friends, positive friends that can build you up in that respect, you start to die inside. And when you have the bad friends that cause you to think that way, you die even more. It's like taking Jesus out of our heart. We've got him cordoned off in here. He's only got a little tiny portion. And when we take on a toxic friendship, it's like taking him out, putting him here and saying, sorry, man, you just don't fit my life right now. This person is my idol. I mean, what can I do? You know, that in respect to something very different. Sorry, man, you just don't fit in my life. I have idols. What can I do? Do you see the difference? Do you understand the difference between this friend who's causing you to stifle your relationship with Jesus and keep you from growing, to this friend who would never stop you from growing? You can't go wrong with this type of relationship. You will go wrong with this type of relationship. It will always end badly. That's the difference between good relationships and friendships. And the relationship and friendship you want to have for the rest of your life. And if you don't have that friendship, whether you're here watching or you're in front of your computer screen or sitting on your iPhone in your car, you can have that friendship, and all you need to do is just say it in the quiet of your own heart. You don't need to make a big show of it. All you have to do is say, Jesus, I accept you into my heart. Please take control of my life. Be my friend. If you said that, and you believe that, and you've had enough of this kind of relationship, this kind of friendship that sucks the life out of you, you want something better, I challenge you. Try this. Try it. You will never, never regret it. Because your friendships will grow. Your friendships will be deep and fulfilling. And people will look at you as the friend they have never had. And that is the basis of the message, though none go with me. Hope you have an awesome week. Hope your friendship circle swells because of this message. And you just want something, you want to expand your territory, and you're like the prayer of Jabez, expand your territory because it's time. Thank you.